Australia's Cape York Peninsula is biologically the richest and least disturbed of all our wilderness areas. It's a land of abundant wildlife, of swamps and rich rainforests that tumble down to the sea. It's ringed by coral reefs, and it's virtually unchanged through eons of time. The peninsula is steeped with our romantic past. They came first for the bêche de mer, then for the riches of pearls, then just for adventure, and finally, they came for gold. Today, the jungle has swallowed up such pioneer settlements, and the coral growth shrouds all their ships. There's no easy way to the peninsula. In fact, in the wet, it's impossible. And that's why the Cape York Peninsula has kept most of its secrets to itself. Modern-day explorers like Ben and Lynn Cropp find this timeless land still full of adventure as they journey into the great wilderness. On Cape York Peninsula, between the Daintree and Bloomfield rivers, is the newly declared Cape Tribulation National Park. The rich rainforest area is popular with tourists and contains Australia's finest natural botanical garden. This wilderness area has its special oddities, like the monkey-faced grass owl and the strange bouncing stones. The magnificent roaring Meg Falls are seen by only a few intrepid visitors. The stream begins near Mount Pieterbotte, 1,000 meters high, and tumbles through undisturbed rainforest into the Bloomfield River. 2 people died when swept over the falls. They were crossing right here. Rick Burnup and Lynn Cropp make theirs a very cautious crossing. In the wet season, these granite rocks disappear in a raging torrent as the falls triple in size. The roar can be heard up to 7 kilometers away. The scenic falls are worth the long, hot trek, and there's always relief in a cool swim. Beneath the tranquil lake above the falls lies an enormous treasure in minerals, still hidden from the miner's hungry grasp. Gold fever first lured men to these wild parts. When the Palmer gold ran out, they turned to tin. In 5 years, from 1908, the miners took 382 tons of tin from nearby Lode Hill, but the riches deep in the lake defeated them. Today, the Edwards family work the China camp lease. The price of tin has skyrocketed to over $8,000 a ton.
With our small operation here, every day every truckload, we get about half a bucket of tin, which is pretty good, we think. But soon, the thing we're most excited about is the Roaring Meg. and soon we hope to explore it with a small underwater dredge. Over the years, mining consultants and geologists have estimated that there's around 5,000 tonne of tin in it, which is quite a lot, which is about $40 million worth.
It seems incongruous that more crocodiles are seen on the Daintree River from the comfort of the Crocodile Express boat than in the remoter regions of the peninsula. Since their protection in 1974, a new generation has matured without fear of boats and people. Ben and Lynn explore a cave where Aborigines drew these crocodiles along with old sailing ships, coming up next on The Last Great Wilderness. Port Douglas is Ben's home base, and it reflects the peninsula's character, a place of plenty, where fruit for the locals is freely picked off the ground.
No. Eat a mango? Yummy mango. Mmm.
The Cropps have a perfect home in this renovated old shed over the water, where Ben operates his shipwreck museum. More than a box of mangoes are required to feed the crew on a 2-month voyage. The expedition is ready to explore the wild coastline of Cape York Peninsula. Beaver makes a brief stopover at Lizard Island for its fine anchorage. Captain Cook also anchored here and climbed this hill to look for a passage through the reef. Yachts often sit for weeks behind this idyllic isle. A thrilling way to pass the time is to haul out the spinnaker and fly high on a sail. This tranquil anchorage reflects the beauty and solitude of the many islands fringing the peninsula. Ben must move on, and his course takes him past Noble Island, a finger of granite thrusting 122 meters high. It's the start of a rough passage in a stiff sou'easter as Ben rounds Cape Melville and runs for shelter in Flinders Group of Islands. These islands are rich in maritime history. The survey ship Dart carved its datum mark in the same year of the terrible cyclone, the fury which hit nearby Bathurst Bay and destroyed the entire pearling fleet. Time has almost hidden the cyclone's memorials.
This one, they've made the shape of a ship, Lynn.
This is the 8th one we found.
Yeah, well, these are pearl divers' graves. And just over here in Bathurst Bay, 1899, there was about, nearly 100 ships anchored there, taking on water. And a cyclone came in. 3 of the ships, over 300 of the divers and crew. In fact, it was Australia's greatest maritime disaster. In those times, there was no cyclone warnings at all.
Numerous shell middens tell of many Aboriginal visits years ago.
They came for the large and succulent oysters of Flinders Island. Stanley Island adjoins Flinders across a narrow passage. Ben and Lynn are seeking a rich gallery of Aboriginal rock paintings hidden away on the northern cliff face. They were told that the local natives recorded our history of passing sailing ships. An old prospector also told Ben he found one painting depicting the wreck of a ship. It was so well drawn, he said, that it seemed the native must have painted with the wreck in view. It is this drawing Ben is hoping to find, for it may pinpoint an ancient wreck.
This one's pretty old, Lynn. This ship, because it's a four-masted, probably a bark, and unlike the others, you know, the others look a lot more recent. This could even date way back to Matthew Flinders' time.
It's very faded.
Yeah, oh, it's much older than the others, but obviously these are not pearling luggers. You know, they're big old sailing ships.
What's this one up here?
Yeah, I can't work this one out here. That's a crocodile here.
Could be a spotted eagle ray.
Yeah, could be, or jellyfish, although it seems to have a tail there. I don't know what it means.
Oh, there's lots of
Some lizards over here. There's a lot more over there. There's a turtle. Another turtle. I don't know what these are.
Looks like some sort of spirit.
Yeah. They're hard to follow, some of them.
Oh, look at the ship. It's only got two masts this time. That'd be more recent.
Well, they're probably pearling luggers there. Aha, here's one I can recognise. There's a shark and a turtle in front, so a shark chasing a turtle. Probably a tiger shark because they eat turtles.
Hey, there's a dugong. It's up there. Another two over there.
That's right. That'd be mother and calf. And a turtle. This one they haven't filled the turtle in. They always draw the turtles the same way, don't they?
Ben was unable to locate the drawing of the wrecked ship, but the position of the rock art and the prospector's description of the location have given him the vital clue. A calculated guess and just one short swim was all it took. The wreck is undoubtedly very old. Lynn is checking one of her cannon, lying scattered with anchors, ballast, and bricks on the coral floor. These are bronze pintles which held her rudder in place. They will be taken back for display in Ben's Shipwreck Museum. Later research proved her to be the Frederick, lost in 1818. 23 of her crew were drowned. So little is left now, compared with that day when the native made historic brushstrokes with ochre. An inquisitive fish points Ben to a strange happening near the wreck. The first octopus is joined by a mate. It's all very sneaky. A mating ritual has begun. The male inserts a sperm-covered tentacle through the gill opening of the female. She clings to his arm, and whither she goes, he has to follow. The team finds a virgin river teeming with fish. That's coming up next on The Last Great Wilderness. Off Princess Charlotte Bay, Ben passes Grub Reef and what must be the loneliest little tree in the world. The mangrove has a tenacious hold, for it's shown as a permanent landmark on Ben's Admiralty charts. Rick Burnap's footing is also stable. He's a Hang 5 artist from way back. Ben has set Beaver on autopilot for a steady northerly course, but aft of Beaver, it's a little shaky. Mandy Fleischman looks like a typical surfy girl, bronzed, blonde, and well balanced. Ben presses on through the night, and daylight puts Beaver off the entrance to the Olive River south of Cape Grenville. The seabed is shelving rapidly. It's a team effort to take Beaver over the sandbar and through the narrow entrance.
Coming up, 1.5.
1.5 fathoms.
1.
1.
Pretty shallow.
Getting more shallow, Ben.
Just under 1.
Most rivers in North Queensland are muddy, but the Olive has a clean, sandy bottom. The river is isolated and rarely sees visitors, but that's its special attraction for people who wish to live a hermit life, like Hugo Julcher.
There you go.
How you going, man?
Yeah, good. Here's some books for you.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah.
Some of them are pretty good.
Yeah, they look good. They're pretty good, yeah.
Want to see your camp?
Yeah, come up and have a look at the camp here.
The Hermit's
Yeah.
Camp.
The Hermit's Camp, that's right, yeah.
How long have you been here, Hubert?
3 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's haven't seen one of those for quite a while.
No, it's a
And-
old one too.
You're from Germany, are you?
Austria.
Uh-huh, what part?
Yeah, Wales.
Yeah. And
not
what
bad.
made you come up to the Olive River?
Oh, a bit of change, you know. I like it up here, you know, out in the bush for a change.
Yeah.
Away from everything, all the noise in big cities, you know.
Well, where were you before you came here?
Townsville.
And how long do you plan to stay here? Forever?
Oh, I tried to stay forever, but I might run out of money. Might have to do a bit of work next year
Yeah.
after the wet season, you know.
Uh-huh. So you
Yeah.
go back where?
Back to Townsville, might get a job, you know, for a few months and then come back again.
Hugo's hermit life is an idyllic one. The river provides his staple needs. He told Ben where to drop a lure at the first sandbank, where the fishing is just great. Most of the catch are hard-fighting trevally, but this one's an oddity. It's called a wolf herring or leaping silver bar. It's said that one of these fish leapt completely across a large launch and knocked the fisherman over. The bountiful waters of the Olive River provided this catch in less than an hour's fishing. A surprise on Rick's shark line is this huge groper. The problem now is to free the hook and release the unwanted giant. The palm-fringed banks along the Olive make it one of the most scenic rivers in Queensland. The abundant fish life is still visible 5 kilometers upriver. These are diamond-scale mullet, a target for the great jabiru. They travel onto the upper reaches of the river and into the fresh water. The profusion of plant life closes in, and a new range of aquatic creatures emerge. The freshwater crocodiles are feeding on the mullet and perch, and the water is clear enough to observe their behavior down under. The raking teeth are designed for catching fish, for this Crocodilus johnstoni species is not a man-eater. Another underwater swim reveals a mystery, coming up next on The Last Great Wilderness. The home islands are a cluster of green jewels off Cape Grenville, and right on the cape lies the wreckage of a plane. It's a P-39 Air Cobra. The pilot had left Townsville with a squadron of 33 such planes to engage the Japanese off Port Moresby. They ran into a violent storm along this coast, and 14 of the planes became lost. As each engine ran out of fuel and sputtered and died, the pilot ditched his craft on the closest beach. The corals now shroud this Vultee Vengeance plane. It was on an anti-submarine patrol in August 1943 when engine trouble put it down on the reef. Dated wrecks such as these give a good indication of the fast coral growth. One wing is now buried under a meter of coral. At Eel Reef, Ben's crew dive on the steamship Korea, known to have been wrecked there in 1893. Its cargo hold still remains an open tomb, a refuge for fish. But outside, the corals have grown right up to her decks and engulfed the ship. A very lucky find is the ship's bell, which had fallen beside her boilers. It will toll again in Ben's Shipwreck Museum. Ben carefully removes the encrusting coral. The bell will be inscribed with the Korea's name. A final wipe discloses an intriguing mystery. The name is Rangatira, 1859. Ben's movements north along the peninsula are regularly monitored by the coastal surveillance planes. Torres Strait Islanders are often employed as observers, and their job is to identify and log the movements of every ship. The recent increase of these surveillance flights has led to a greater number of Taiwanese junks being apprehended for illegal poaching of giant clams. The crew of this junk did not wait for the patrol boat to catch them with the evidence on board. They chose instead to scuttle and abandon their ship. Poachers and smugglers are not always their target. These bundles of plastic cards are dropped off the coast in the aid of science. Their eventual recovery will tell the direction of currents inside the barrier reef. This will help scientists understand the movement of marine life from reef to reef and anticipate the direction of drift of any oil spill. Dinner is ordered at the drop of a lure in these bountiful waters. It's one of the many pleasures of sailing along the uninhabited and unspoilt coastline of Cape York Peninsula.
Here's belly.
Wow.
Good. Hooks in well.
The November calm weather allows Ben to run beaver close inshore, and he spots a victim of the last winter storms. The yacht Skull lies beached at Usher Point. Even though this area is very isolated, she was quickly stripped of all valuable fittings. These are the remarkable red cliffs of Usher Point, a seam of bauxite running right across the peninsula from Weipa. Above the cliffs stand sentinels of termite mounds. These castles of clay are 5 meters high. Wind and storm have carved out numerous caves. It's a scenic place to explore, where your imagination can run wild. Dean Cropp never had a chance to get dry behind the ears. Tuffy had no idea he was in for a wet landing, for the floating pumice stones hide the creek well. Evening storms darken the sky as Ben runs beaver into the Escape River. Ben has come here in search of a tragedy. In 1848, the Kennedy expedition pushed north through hostile Aborigines in a tragic attempt to reach Cape York. Kennedy died here in a hail of spears, and the lone survivor, Jackie, became immortalized in our history. Ben will search for the historic site where Kennedy was speared. That's coming up next on The Last Great Wilderness. Ben and Lynn's only clue to the site where Kennedy was speared is a visual interpretation of the account by Jackie, Kennedy's faithful Aboriginal tracker. After Jackie buried his master, he struggled north to meet the waiting ship, carrying Kennedy's diaries and the sad news of a fateful expedition.
Getting close now. Yeah, well this is the curve there in the swamp, probably only about another half mile. Anyway, we'll follow around this way.
All right.
Yeah, we're pretty close, Lynn. There's supposed to be a termite mound, and here's the edge of the swamp, so it's pretty hard to say, but somewhere here Kennedy was killed. And also the swamp has to be very close because all the horses scattered and ran into the swamp.
Well, if this was the camp then, surely there'd be some sign that we could find now.
Well, you'd think so, but unfortunately the Aborigines came in and they just took everything. They even dug up Kennedy's body and took his clothes. So we've only got Jackie's account of that day to work out where it possibly happened.
The blacks sneaked all along by the trees and speared Mr. Kennedy again in the right leg, and I got speared over the right eye. And the blacks were now throwing spears always, never giving over. And shortly again speared Mr. Kennedy in the right side. And I carried Mr. Kennedy into the scrub. I asked him often, "Are you well now?" And he said, "I don't care for the spear wound in my leg, Jackie, but for the other 2 spear wounds in my side and back." And said, "I am bad inside, Jackie." I told him blackfellow always dies when he got speared in the back. I asked him, "Mr. Kennedy, are you going to leave me?" And he said, "Yes, my boy, I am going to leave you." He then said, "Jackie, give me papers and I will write." I gave him paper and pencil and he tried to write. And he then fell back and died.
The discovery of pearl shell in 1869 at Warrior Reef began a new and romantic era for the far north. The lure of the pearl drove some men to fame and fortune, and others to a watery grave from the dreaded bends. The development of plastics signaled the end of the pearling era, but there's a revival today through the demand for cultured pearls. Cape York is Australia's northernmost landfall. Beyond it is the Torres Strait, a tortuous and dangerous ship's channel which is littered with wrecks. Off Mount Adolphus Island, Ben watches his sounder closely. The peak tracing is recording the wreck of a large ship under Beaver. It's the wreck of the Quetta. The seas were calm on the night of February 28th of 1890. An uncharted rock tore through her hull and she sank within 3 minutes. 133 were drowned. Giant groper now promenade her deck, and a carpet of rich corals festoon the rusting hulk. Above hover huge stingrays, their presence felt by the eerie shadows they cast over the divers. An octopus slinks into his coral-shrouded lair. The wreck's innumerable nooks and crannies hide such creatures from the swarms of predatory fish circling overhead. Leopard sharks are docile creatures, and Lynn has to stir this one into action for a fun ride. Ben and Lynn found that the rock which now bears the Quetta's name had torn a long gash running from the bow right back aft to the engine room. She lies now on her beam ends, on her port side, in 25 meters of water. Lynn's long dive to that depth requires a decompression stop at 3 meters to avoid the bends. Ben steers Beaver round the tip of Australia. Cape York has seen many historic voyages pass by and a new continent take shape, but civilization has never touched its wild shores. "62-year-old George Bridge has come here to get away from it all. He can go no further north."
Oi! Came to see your last house in Australia. And you live on your own here?
Well, yes, I'm on my own.
I see you improvised here. You've got a Coca-Cola can for
Yes, I had to
drain
improvise.
pipe. And what made you move up here into virtual total isolation?
Well, I'm getting on a little bit now, Ben, and I've had my family. They've all grown up, and when they get their feathers, they fly away. And I just wanted peace and quietness, and I think I've ultimately got it.
Can you show me around? I'd like to see this more.
Yeah. Now over here, we've got a hole.
Yeah.
Now the only alternative I've got is to try and fill the hole in.
Well, you're doing well.
And this is the best way that I can find to fill the hole.
Yeah.
But I would say perhaps another 2 or 3 weeks and should be nearly filled up. If people want to come down and visit me and sit down and have a yarn and a talk and a cup of tea, they're very, very welcome.
You seem to have all the comforts here anyway.
Well, I decided that when I came out here that I'd be as comfortable as I could. I'm getting on a little bit now. And, well, I could go out and chop wood, but why chop wood? It cost me a couple of dollars for a bit of porter-gas. All right, I got porter-gas. And, well, my life from now on, I would imagine, would be quite comfortable and peaceful and quiet. And that's all I'm looking for. And I don't see any reason why a man should want more than that in life.
Ben's dive in a legendary lake reveals its secrets, next on The Last Great Wilderness. The natives call this Dugong Story Lake. It lies in the center of Prince of Wales Island, west of Cape York. Local farmer Ray Aylett is Ben's guide on the 7-kilometer hike. With scuba gear and underwater camera, Ben hopes to unravel the mysterious legends he's heard about Dugong Story Lake. Aboriginal lore tells of a dugong and a sea monster seen in the lake, which they believe is bottomless. History also records the slaughter by headhunters of the crew of the Spawea in 1870, and a punitive massacre of the local natives by Frank Jardine, who supposedly threw the victims into this lake.
That camera ray went on in.
Righto.
Perhaps this conger eel is the legendary monster. It's one of several Ben saw up to 2 meters long. Ben found the lake does have a bottom, only 10 meters down, and the water is fresh with no possible link with the sea. It seems that the legends were not based on fact.
Oh, I found the monster. Yeah. But just a big conger eel. Anyway, this seems a pretty well-shaped rock.
Looks like a stone axe.
It does look like one. Yeah. Maybe Well, maybe Jardine did throw the victims in here. Might have chucked them all in. That rumour may be true.
It's now early December, and the monsoon storms are slowly gathering strength. Ben turns Beaver south on the long homeward run, for the cyclone season is approaching. He diverts from his southbound course off Princess Charlotte Bay and runs along Corbett Reef. Manta rays frolic off Beaver's bow, but they are not what Ben is searching for. In November of the previous year, a large herd of dugong was sighted here by a native crew on a lugger. Ben was sad to learn that 28 of the docile dugong were slaughtered in one day. There's one, and another one is coming up alongside. Perhaps the herd have again stopped here on their summer migration to the south. Manta rays are everywhere, and they're mating. They're rolling upside down in a courtship dance. Ben believes the dugong also carve and mate again at this time of year. It's a mother and her calf, and the 1-meter baby can be no more than a few days old. The mother must keep to the shallows and do short 30-second dives to keep pace with her slow baby. This handicap allows Ben to move in very close and capture these unique shots. Dugong are a protected and endangered species, but Aborigines are still allowed to hunt them for food. It's sad that this tradition allowed 28 dugong to die and diminish the last big herd along Cape York Peninsula. The baby riding piggyback on its mother's back has an unstable future. The laws, which fail to safeguard the dugong, also reflect the problems facing the entire peninsula area. A gale warning has been running home for shelter. Cyclone Eddie is now off Princess Charlotte Bay and bearing down on it.
We have to hand top priority cyclone warning number 3 for coastal areas Port Douglas to Bowen. The centre is expected to move slightly away from the coast. Gales developing overnight in coastal areas from Port Douglas to Bowen with gusts above 95 kilometres per hour.
Ben ran beaver well upstream in the Port Douglas Inlet, where the mangroves close in as a protective wall against the high winds and rough seas. Outside, the cyclone unleashes all its fury. The sky opens up and the rainfall is so heavy, it's talked of in old-fashioned feet. Port Douglas is flooded with 6 feet, and south of Cairns records an incredible 10 feet in 10 days. The southern peninsula is transformed into an inland lake. It is the first cyclone of the wet season, perhaps the worst. But the monsoonal deluge is all part of a regular cycle that enriches the luxuriant growth of this great wilderness.
This magnificent wilderness has a shaky future. Only a few small parks exist, and development is hungry for the rest. Such developments in terms of road, towns, and the human impact would effectively destroy much of the peninsula's wilderness character. The future of the peninsula lies in two directions. Shall we repeat here the mistakes that have been made again and again elsewhere in Australia? That would destroy an outstanding national region. Why don't we preserve this magnificent wilderness as a national park for present and future generations to come?